Ralph, I will first say hello. Just want to say hello.
How you doing, Jonathan?
So you can feel at ease. And why don't you start? First off, you weren't always a believer.
No, I wasn't. I'm close to an atheist as can be.
Even you were near an atheist. And his name is Ralph Christian, by the way. But that doesn't, now a lot of you are called Christians, but that doesn't mean you're born again. So we'll just show this. So, so you were, what kind of upbringing did you have, religious one?
I went to a Catholic grammar school, and I was raised Catholic up until the 8th grade, and then that's when my life changed. When I graduated from grammar school, I kind of just took a direction and turned completely away from church, God, and I just didn't believe anymore. I ran really far away from it.
How old were you?
I was around 12 at that time.
And what did you think of Jesus up to that time? Now you are not Jewish, so therefore everybody would assume you're a Christian, so you know Jesus. I mean, but what did you think of him up to that time?
I didn't even think of him up until that time. I was too active in sports and whatever kids do, hanging out and so forth.
Okay, not even as a little kid?
Not really.
Really? You had no... I mean, see, a lot of times people as little children, you said, little children have a special affinity, but you didn't have...
No, I didn't have it at all.
Okay. What kind of a kid were you?
A little bratty here and there, but the reason I really didn't know Jesus or didn't get into it, I was forced to go to that school, and I was a rebellious type of kid.
What, a religious school?
Yeah, and so I fought it all the way. When I graduated from there, I was so happy. That's why I was so happy to get out of there, that I just wanted to run away from that and get into a public school and take it from there.
Right.
So that's when my life really started to change also.
That 8th grade?
Right.
Okay, so you became an atheist, and what did you start getting into?
Well, at that time, there were some problems at home, and there was a move going on. I was moving from the city life to suburban, and I refused to go. I started taking drugs at that time. I used to drink a little bit, and I smoked.
In 8th grade?
I started smoking when I was 5, cigarettes.
When you were 5 years old, you started smoking?
The first pack was tough, but then after that it got easy.
Wait, what did your parents think of you smoking? Did they catch you smoking?
No.
I mean, seeing cigarette butts around?
No, as a matter of fact...
5 years old is pretty young, you know.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was my uncle who got me started. He was, at the time, he was 11, and he was taking me bowling, and one time I caught him sneaking cigarettes in the bathroom, so rather than having me squeal on him, he figured, if he starts me smoking, I can't squeal on him, so he started me smoking at a young age.
That's a great policy. So you were smoking since 5 years old.
Right.
Okay, it sounds like it's going to be a speedy testimony. 5 years old, and what else?
Well, basically, I really have to start off really when I left school at 12. And I started getting to all different types of drugs. I started smoking marijuana, and alcohol was always something that was casually used through all my drug life. But that's where I started. When I was about 13, I went up the scale, as far as the drug scale. At that time, it was back in the late 60s. I got into LSD. And throughout all my teens, I went from marijuana, LSD, into harder drugs, cocaine, heroin, and I was an intravenous user also. So I really, I tasted the highest highs and the lowest lows from it, and I was addicted to every one at different times in my life.
So you really used every kind of drug that was there, pretty much.
I was strung out on every different type too. It was unique. Most of my friends would, you find a niche in the drug culture there, and what type of high that you like, and you might become an addict in that way and find that head that you enjoy, as they would say. But for some reason, one at a time, I really abused it terribly, where I was totally addicted to each drug as I went along ladder, and I put one behind me, I started another one, it was just as bad or worse.
And what was the reaction of your family to you at that time?
Okay, like I say, at the end of grammar school also, with the family moving, and there were marital problems at that time, I would say that I kind of got away with a lot, because they just were into their own problems, and I was very shrewd and cunning, and I knew how to manipulate, and I was doing that. As a matter of fact, my first year of high school, I didn't go. I stayed at home, and I visited my grandmother's home, and I used to hang out in the street corners, and also I started to get into organized crime at that age.
How old?
This is about 13.
13, okay.
Well, my freshman year of high school, because I didn't go to high school my freshman year.
Okay, so you're into drugs. You're into cigarette smoking since 5. You're into drugs. You're into every kind of drug. Okay, and pretty much you're getting into it.
Right.
Okay, and and you're in 8th grade and you're getting into organized crime.
Not knowing, but I was, yeah. Not knowing
what do you mean?
me.
How do you not know?
It was just great fun. I was out of school, hanging out in a corner store that we all hung out in, and the older men of the neighborhood that were just in organized crime and gamblers and so forth, I was like a lucky charm, too. I used to win a lot, the horse races. I used to handicap horses, and they used to take me to track because I'd win all the time. They picked the horses that I would pick. And for a kid that young with, $100 or so in your pocket, I felt rich. And I said, wow, this is the way to go.
Now, this is mafia?
Organized crime.
Okay. All right. So you got involved in betting.
My father is German, but my mother's Italian.
Right.
So I was the only kid without an Italian last name, but in an Italian neighborhood in school. Even on my 8th grade graduation, I was the only non-Italian name.
Right.
But I was Italian, so I had to take a little bit there, jokingly with friends. But it was that's the neighborhood I grew up in.
Right.
Not to say anything negative about Italians, but
Okay, so you're involved in organized crime by betting, bookie.
And then I started working for them.
So you went full time.
Yeah. Now this, as my drug life started to elevate and get deeper into, when I was moving on to about 15, 16, that's when I started to use drugs intravenously. And at that time, I was just very much into gambling myself, and I used to do pretty well at it. That I support myself, helped me with the drugs, and also it got me by. I was at that time too living in. I used to stay in a train station once in a while. After a few years of this, I became kind of the black sheep of the family because I was always in and out of trouble with family and.
Surprised it took that long.
The only one that really always took me in or just always showed me love was my grandmother. Everybody else gave up on me at an early age.
Wow.
I was just a hassle to their life. And I don't blame them, but I'm saying I was, I just was a very big hassle to them.
So you're finishing high school now, or you're
yeah, I went back to high school after that year.
Right. Okay.
And I did not finish high school right at that time. I went for a few years, and I dropped out of school, and then after I picked it up again and graduated at a later time in my life.
Okay.
But yeah, I was in high school, and I was just getting more and more and more into drugs. At an age when I hit my early 20s is when I started to work for organized crime as a phone type of credit bookie, and I did that for a while. But through all this time, I just want to mention that I had so many close calls as far as with drugs and getting busted. I got busted, which is arrested in a small way, but so many close calls in my life as I was growing up where I should have been caught. I should have been charged with so many different things. Nothing violent, but yet abuses to myself, drugs, dealing a little bit, also gambling, and then being part of the organized crime and taking bets over the phone. So, as a matter of fact, it was one time where I left that job for a few weeks, and after I left, they got busted the week after. So I'm saying I always had close calls. Everybody was arrested and booked for that, and some people did time in jail for that too, but I was always getting away with things, and I had this feeling inside of me that someday I just felt that I'm going to get caught, or not caught, I was going to be charged, or something was going to happen in my life where I would be innocent. Something was going to make up for all these times I got away with it. And I always carried that with me, that someday I would just get charged with something in my life, or something's going to happen to make up for everything I got away with.
Now, what kind of person were you? What was its effect having on you as a person? In going through this. I mean, what kind of person works for the organized crime? What's going on in your life?
Okay, first of all, I was the type of person that I tried to get everything I can out of life, selfishly, totally selfishly.
Which a lot of people do. Yeah.
Well, but manipulating in the lazy way, the easy way, looking for the easy way all the time, and
which is a lot of people too.
And I always felt I was somewhere along the line I was going to hit it big, with gambling and
which a lot of people do. Yeah, yeah. And now, were you a happy person?
Well, my life, I didn't get to that part yet. What happened in my life, but my life changed.
No, I mean, were you?
Oh, back then? No. I was totally unhappy. But the times that I noticed that were rare because I kept myself so drugged and so high that any time reality started to shine through, I just numbed myself immediately. I didn't want to deal with it, so I just numbed myself, and I didn't even know what I was looking for. All I knew was I had to numb myself and keep myself high and away from reality.
Did you keep yourself away from people? Were people?
Oh no, I was sociable. I got along with people. As a matter of fact, had many friends. Well, let's say acquaintances now. I could think back, but no, very sociable.
You a pleasant person?
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good sense of humor, fun-like, and yeah, most of the times I was. I wasn't a violent, like you say, drunk or people who drink alcohol. I wasn't abusive. I was more the happy-go-lucky type. In my 20s, after leaving the organized crime work that I was involved with, I just stayed continuously on drugs. So finally, I went the whole gambit, and after experiencing them all, I kind of settled into alcohol, sociably, thinking I was off drugs, but I turned out to be an alcoholic also. My life was a total waste, and I was the black sheep of the family, and in my younger years and late, early 20s, anytime either family members would suggest counseling or psychiatry or whatever, I would try it at different times, and they would all say, "You're a lost cause." They even told my family, "He'll never change. He's going to have that self-destructive personality his whole life." And they happened to be right at the time. Up until 3 years ago in my life, where I was drinking at the time, stopped with the hard drugs, but I was drinking over a quart of alcohol a day, and smoking about 3 packs of cigarettes at the time, and I used to make, one thing I did, from young, I always made fun of the Christian TV channels. Don't ever do that, you people out there. You might be a Christian yourself someday.
Okay.
But I used to make fun of them and really enjoy doing that and goof on them. And one day I was changing the channels. I started goofing on one again, and it was time when I was just going to bed. And as in a drunken stupor, I just turned to the Lord and I said, even though I didn't believe in God, I was saying, like, if there really is a God, I said, well, here's one for you. See if you can do something with this life.
Yeah,
Even though I was very full of, I was a hateful type of person. I was revengeful. I always planned out how to take out revenge on someone, would never follow through. And at this time, I didn't realize, but family and my mother, who I wasn't in touch with, was back in across the coast, a different part of the country. At the same time, I was asking God to do something with this miserable life. She was coaxed into calling a prayer line. And she didn't believe in God either. And it was maybe in the same week or month, she finally did, to satisfy an aunt, called up and said, well, if there is a God, you could prove it to me by praying for my son. If he could change my son's life, then I know there has to be a God. Well, don't have it, if you want your life changed, I mean, when you ask God to do that, you better mean it, because he certainly does.
You were like a test case for God.
I didn't know what I was getting into. Anyway, about 3 or 4 months later, I was with someone I just met the first time, and over my apartment, and we were drinking heavily. Nothing really went on much in that conversation. It was a couple of hours, and I walked out to the car. We made plans to get together for dinner, and it was the first time I met this person. Well, anyway, that I didn't realize, but that's where my life was starting to change. The next morning, I hear a vicious bang on the door, very, very hard and constant, and I go to answer to see what it is, and as I open the door, there was a gun pointed to my head, and they said, "You're under arrest, don't move." I can't explain, put into words, the feeling. I just didn't know what was going on, what happened, and I was just totally in shock. They wouldn't let me move, they wouldn't let me get dressed, because I just came out of bed, and they pushed me to the side, and they read me my rights, and before I knew it, I was in a police car, and I was going to jail being booked. Now, the shock hit me pretty hard, that after I was booked for this, I had this very heavy chest, and at the time I thought of possibly taking a heart attack. So they rushed me from the jail to the hospital, at the time intensive care, and they checked me all out. And even when I was in intensive care, I was there on a stretcher, and as they had the intravenous in your veins and so forth, and you're on the monitors, they still had me, you're still handcuffed to the stretcher there, and your hands and legs, and you can't move, and they dig into you. And it was like a nightmare that I wanted to wake up from, but I couldn't. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how serious. I just didn't know what was happening. I was just very confused with that. When they found out it wasn't a heart attack, they put me right into the mainstream of the jail. At this time, I found out that the person I was with, I didn't know it was the person I was with, because I didn't realize that. I just realized the charge, and they said, "You're being charged with rape," so I couldn't think of anything. I didn't think of the person the night before, because I had nothing, I was saying, wow, where have I been lately? Or I right away started, I knew I was innocent, but I said, I have to cover my tracks. Where have I been? Where is this coming from? And when I was booked into jail, I'll tell you right now, it's a very difficult thing to go into jail for. You are, it's the worst place to be.
And you're innocent. And this is also answering that feeling that you had all that time. I mean, people can't imagine this could happen to somebody. You're innocent. You always had the feeling this was going to happen.
But it was, yes, and it was just a total
charged to rape.
Really shock. And as far as the pressure in my chest, I wanted to say that lasted too. I had this pressure, and when I went to jail there, I thought from the hospital, I thought they'd give me my own cell or whatever. I wasn't familiar with it, and I found out that it was it's difficult to be in jail for that charge. You're not looked upon. It's not your favorite thing there. As a matter of fact, as soon as I walked in, my life was threatened, and I found myself in a position where I had to fight for my life, where my life was threatened. I saw the person that was threatening it, and either I had to fight for my life. It's almost like be killed or be killed, and I really felt that way. You're scared enough. I was scared at that time enough to kill rather than to be killed, because that's where it's at in jail.
Even the guard told you that that your life was very shaky right now.
Right, and I even saw the weapons that and at a later date they
were planning to kill you.
Yeah,
and there was a setup.
Yeah,
and you're innocent.
Yeah,
amazing.
Well, I could have died there, and no one ever would know I was innocent.
No one would have heard you.
No, the end of the story would never happen. My family would have just, never known. Anyway, as I was there, I told the guards before I went into the cell block. I said, I'm not going in there. I says, no matter what. I says, I don't want to cause a scene. I'll go very calmly, but if I have to, I'll even cause a scene. But I'd like to be alone in the cell. They said they can't do that unless you want to go to solitary. So I didn't know really too much about solitary, other than I'll take it rather than hurt someone else and have another, a charge on me for that, or get hurt myself. But when I went to solitary, I didn't realize what it was. As I walked around to it, they stripped you down naked, and then they put you in a padded room. And this one happened to have a bright light, constant light. And in the corner of the room, the padded was like a hole in the floor, which was a little smaller than a teacup saucer. And it smelled of human waste, and it was dirty in there, and it was very cold being naked in there, and there was no way of getting warm. And the mental anguish at that time was tremendous because of my past and how I was. I didn't expect any help from family at all. And I was, again, lost, not knowing. It was very, very bad on my mind, my thinking. I was saying, what is this about? Where? Or what? I was trying to put together pieces and reaching, and just coming dry, and not being able to put anything together at all. Knowing that there's no time in that bright light, I couldn't even rest or sleep, and I was in such pain mentally that that was the first time, without realizing it, I reached out for the Lord.
In solitary confinement.
Yes. You don't know He's all you need until He's all you got. And that's what I was feeling at the time. So not even realizing I was reaching out, I started praying or talking to God, and I was so uncomfortable, and I was trying to crawl up and get warm enough to maybe get some kind of rest or rest my mind. But every time I reached out or tried to talk to Him or pray, I realized that I'd just fall asleep. And I'd wake up and I'd feel a little bit more refreshed because, the pain was that severe that I needed some type of rest. I couldn't sleep or anything because I was so confused about what was going on. And I noticed it happened about 3 times. I didn't know if I fell asleep for 30 seconds. It could have been 30 hours. It could have been 2 hours. It could have been a minute. I really didn't know, but I felt a little refreshed enough to take more pain that I was absorbing. It was just incredible. Then a trustee would pass once in a while, and they would describe, tell me where they were going to stab me and what they were going to do. Eventually, not thinking I was going to get any help, I was sorry I was in solitary. I wanted to be out, and I tried to. Anytime somebody passed, I wanted to get out because I figured, look, I want to die now. So I'll go. I'll just go. And I'll go. The first person that comes to me, it's me or them. But I'll just keep.
And you're innocent, but you want to die. Yeah.
I didn't see a way out, and death was the answer for me at the time. What was incredible about being there was I didn't realize till later the evilness of the spirit of evilness that was going on in there, and the smell is so heavy. It's almost like it was like a little taste of hell, just a little taste of hell. Because I imagine hell was so tremendously, worse than that could ever be, but it was just a little taste. I was there finally before they were releasing me, which I didn't know. A doctor came in, psychiatrist. There were 2 guards, and there were 2 women, which was embarrassing to me at the time, being naked there and trying to cover up. when they came in, he was asking me why I wanted to go in there, and they were trying to tell him that something was wrong with me mentally. They should put me in another facility, and I had to convince him that why I was there. And I told him I didn't want any harm to come to myself or someone else. I explained the situation, but out of everybody, he believed me, and I was released. I was released on a Monday night. So from Saturday morning to Monday night, I was there, and I was released on a Monday night. I got out, I just kept walking, got in the cab, and got home. When I went home, I was surprised to see my mother there, and she financially helped me out, and she said that she was going to stick by me, which was surprising.
Did she think you were guilty?
You know, my whole family, through the whole thing, they say that they want to believe that, but you can tell that they
don't.
They just don't believe.
Really
your own family. No one does.
Yeah.
The only one who knew was me and the Lord.
Yeah.
Well, to get into what happened and how my life changed, it was the next morning. It was Tuesday morning. Let me just say this. I didn't know, but I couldn't eat anything. That's how upset I was. And when I was there for 3 days, I didn't eat or drink, so any kind of food that was pushed through that door, I wouldn't touch. I was on a fast, and I didn't realize it. And I'm a heavy-set guy, and I lost 30 pounds in those 3 days, and I weighed myself the next day. So the next morning, going to see a lawyer my mother arranged for, I'm driving in the car, and as I was driving in the car on the freeway in California, all of a sudden, I still had this pressure a little bit from the hospital and so forth. I felt a sensation, and I thought that was going to start in again. But as I felt the sensation in my chest, I felt it start to lift up towards my throat, and that's the last I remember of it. But it felt dirty, and something was coming out of me. And an instant, right where that was leaving, that void, I felt a warm sensation and a very bright light, and it was just bright out. And I just felt a strong, strong love coming to me from my head to my toe. It was so, you can't put it into words. And I knew there was a God. I knew. And without speaking verbally, he just told me, he showed me so much. I just understood so much. And I knew that I wanted to go out and run out and get in Bible. I knew that the Bible was his word. He just shared with me so much. And like I say, it wasn't verbal talk at that time, but it's an understanding, and it's hard to put the Holy Spirit into words. I didn't know anything from Holy Spirit to Jesus or anything at the time. I just knew it was God, and the love that came out. In the middle of this sensation, I turned to my left, and I said something to my mother. I don't remember what I said, but as I did, I heard her crying and it was joyfulness, a joyful cry, but I was still just absorbing what was happening to me. But I later found out that the reason she cried was right in the middle of that. I said the identical prayer that she prayed to the counselors on the phone. Like I can't repeat it now because I don't remember from them. But she told me, she said it was the identical words that she asked for, and it was a witness to her. The Lord witnessed to her that, look, here I am, I'm doing it, and my life changed. Everything changed in an instant. I used to take the Lord's name in vain almost every sentence. I used to curse, so much so. It was just part of my language. I didn't know any better. I would almost not choke, but when it couldn't come out of me anymore. I start saying silly words like, instead of saying GD, it would be gosh. And I said, what is this? Is it me? I said, oh Lord, wait a second. I knew there was God. I went out, I got a Bible. That day, I started saying things that I didn't realize till later that were in the Bible. I just kept talking about it. My sister then asked me something, and I was telling her about creation, and she asked me a question, I just started answering her, and I just started, I found out again later on that all these things I was saying were accurate, which surprised me.
That happens to a number of new believers, where they just start quoting something, they don't realize it's the Bible. It just shows you how incredibly real it is.
Well, anyway, it was just a brand new me. As a matter of fact, the best way I could describe it, I didn't know anything about the new birth or what we were talking about tonight. I felt like I kept saying, I felt like I'm just born all over again, like it's a new start. I felt so squeaky clean. I just felt so clean. I didn't feel any sin at all. I can't describe it other than I just felt like I just was better than when I was born into this world.
And you never had anybody tell you have to be born again?
No.
You didn't even know what it was?
I didn't know.
It just happened to you.
Right,
it's real. Okay.
Right.
Okay. You see? It's the truth. Go ahead.
Okay. And to pick up from there, that's how I felt. I just felt so clean and just so in touch with the Lord. There were many things happening to me from that day to the next day, just understandings with the Lord. Like I said, I got the Bible also, and he was feeding me through that. I didn't know how to even put into words what was going on. Now I know some Christian terminology that I could explain a little better, but at the time I couldn't explain too much. Finally, getting back to my case,